Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here on childish motivation in education. I did have a parent call me and ask about their 3-year-old, what can they do to give their child some education. They were actually thinking of me having videos that they could watch with their child, and I don't think that their attention would be able to go that far. But I did give the parents some tips and advice on teaching. Just, the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. It's not that difficult, and that's a big head start. That's more than some people get out of their education. Some people get to high school and can't read and don't know how to do basic math. So if you have a 5-year-old or 6-year-old doing that, that's great. She said in the course of our conversation, when I suggested having a little box of treats or toys or something that the child can get when they finish a task, an educational task, and they cannot get anything out of that box unless they finish a task. You don't necessarily force them to do the task. You don't say, sit down and do this, you've got to learn these letters, you've got to write these numbers. No, all you say is, if you will write these numbers, then I'll give you anything you want out of this little box here, treats and toys. And she said, oh, well, I've been told specifically not to do that. I've been told not to reward kids. I've been told not to tie education to a material reward of some sort. Well, I said, it is childish of a child to want some sort of material reward for learning. But it's a child we're talking about. There's no reason why you cannot motivate a child using a child's value system. Children don't care about whether they're going to be able to fill out a resume in 20 years. They don't care if they're going to get into college. They don't even know that next summer's going to get here. It seems like an eternity away, just their next birthday. They don't know anything about the world. How are they going to understand complex motivation like you need education so that you can succeed in life? What the hell? I want to go ride my trike. Well, they might not say hell if they're a little kid, but you can't assume that we can give a completely adult motivation to a childish person, a child. It's not derogatory to call them childish. It's just an observation of the facts. Now, you're objective about this, and you notice it's a child, and you motivate them based on the fact that it's a child, if you're objective about it, which I try to do. So I told the parent, don't even hesitate. That is the point. Children are childish. Do anything you can to get the child to learn to read and numbers and stuff, learn his maths. Because it's ridiculous to say he can't read, he can't do his maths, but I've never offered him rewards for doing it. That's a ridiculous statement. I, on the other hand, say he can read. Here I got 3- and 4-year-olds in my school in Utah who could read. They could read. And when I got my first students, I had a 7-year-old that couldn't. That is abominable. Horrific. And so here I am making a statement to the world that the students, 3- and 4-year-olds, can read and do math, and I offered them bribes. Now, the bribes are not important, they're not essential, but they make the kid's day. And the kid's proud of the fact he can read and stuff. When they get older, when you get up to the age of 8, 9, 10, 11, then their motivations become more complex. They're still immature, but they are more complex. That is a little bit different of a story. I think you do need to offer rewards there, but there needs to be more in the way of competition for older kids. Games, make it fun to learn rather than just rewards. And you can use games with the younger kids too, but the rewards are younger kids, really like under 7, very immature, very materialistic, childish, but they're children. They are immature, so it's okay for their motivations to be that way. And it's nothing sinister for you to take advantage of their motivations in getting them an education. What's wrong with it? Now, if you say it'll develop a habit, the kid won't want to do anything without his reward. Fine, offer him a reward. Offer him rewards clear on up through when he's done with high school. When he's, I mean, not done with it. When he's still in high school, you can offer him rewards for getting A's and punishments for getting C's or less than that, maybe. For every C you get, you don't get paid for your A. You can offer the kid an allowance, weekly or monthly allowance, and rescind that allowance if there's bad behavior or something like that. So this sort of motivation, I mean, it works in the workplace for people that are 30, 50 years old. If you do better, we'll give you a raise. If you work harder and do more. Now, what is wrong with using this incentive basis with a 3-year-old? If it works with teenagers and people in college and people that are 30 and 50, why can't a 3-year-old be taught his ABCs? If you learn these 5 letters today, you can have a Twinkie. Or you can have this little plastic toy that costs 25 cents. It's just a piece of candy or a silly little toy, but to the child, it's, I mean, kids are childish. Take advantage of that. Use every tool you have to get them an education. They'll be better off in the long run. It doesn't harm them. It doesn't set up bad motivational basis. They'll outgrow it in time. They very quickly do as they begin to become more mentally aware of other people's motivations. Then they start thinking more about the difference between them and other people rather than just, I want a toy or piece of candy. And you can still use motivations right on up. The materialistic, childish motivations work very well with children because they're materialistic and they're childish, they're immature. So I thought that might be useful to some parents out there. I will add one more thing that I did tell this parent, that if you do try to do this with your student, your child, it will move much slower than if you had another student or 2 more students. If you have a small group, 2 or 3, it works much, much better than if there's just one kid. In fact, I've found that with young kids, it is virtually impossible to get them to concentrate. Almost impossible. You can get a few minutes out of them. But the way that we were able to get kids to sit still and try really hard for 10 or 15 minutes at a time on learning the letters or sounding out words or writing numbers, compared to what I've had with individual students, no comparison. If you're going to do anything to try to educate your child, besides just watching Sesame Street and getting them to sing along and stuff, if you really want to get them to be able to write and add stuff and subtract before they're in school, you should get a neighbor kid or 2, and maybe once a week have them sit down for an hour or 2, or every day for an hour or 2, or something like that. You don't have to teach them much. You don't have to teach them world history or literature or anything. Just teach them to read and write, and teach them basic math. And it's much, much easier if you use childish incentives and if you've got a small group to work with, rather than just you and the child one-on-one, which for whatever reasons that I'm not going to analyze here is virtually impossible to get to work.